king, the king of kings. On your knees, dog. All hail. Bow down to the king. Bow down to the king in red as he walked from the place where the traitor.
And that's right, everybody. Welcome to the sweet sounds of Motorhead, singing the King of Kings for the great Triple H. And we got the King of Kings in the New York Rangers right now. That's why we are the King of Kings. Number one, as the great Steve Summers used to say, it's good to be king. Thank you for joining us, everybody. My name is Rob Kramer. This is my co-host, Daniel Bobo Carlin, and we are here for the Best Seat in the House podcast, episode number 108. And Dan, how you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm doing great. That was one heck of a win last night. My voice was shot from that game last night.
Yeah, man. I mean, just as good a spot to start as ever. I mean, what a fantastic game last night. Rangers end up beating the Flyers 6-5 in overtime in a thriller at Madison Square Garden. Oddly enough, that's the same score of the first ever Ranger game that I went to at Madison Square Garden. The Rangers also beat the Flyers 6-5 at Madison Square Garden in overtime in 2002. That was the first time I ever went to the Garden, and yeah, so the Rangers bringing some flashbacks back for me the other night. As what a great game, Dan. I mean, when you look at everything that was going up against this team coming into that game, I mean, let's be honest. Right off the bat, we had three defensemen out, as obviously we all know that Ryan Lindgren and Jacob Trouba, the captain, have both been down for the last couple of games. As for Trouba, it's been a couple of weeks now. And then last night also, they were down Eric Gustafsson, their third pair defenseman, who's been moved up to the second pair with all the injuries. He was out last night too because of an injury. So they had three, backup guys in there in, Zach Jones, Chad Ruedel, who they acquired from the Penguins before the trade deadline, and last night making his NHL debut, Brandon Scanlon. So congratulations to Brandon Scanlon and the Scanlon family making his NHL debut. But I mean, the things that had to work out for that to happen have been pretty crazy with the amount of depth that the Rangers have had to go through with their defensemen. And then on top of all that, their third line center that they acquired from who did they get from the Seattle Kraken, Alex Wenberg. He missed last night's game because his wife went into labor and gave birth to their baby that was born just 2 days ago. So, or I'm sorry, yesterday. So, he was out of the lineup too. So the Rangers were short 4 regulars in their lineup yesterday and still pulled out the thrilling victory. That just goes to show what a great coach Laviolette is and what a great team this Rangers team is, right, Dan? All right. Guess Dan's not there with us. Hopefully he'll pop back in a sec. But yeah, I mean, when you look at everything that they had to deal with, and obviously we showed up on the show tonight with the King of Kings as the theme song for this for this, and the we see that it's because the Rangers clinched the playoff spot last night. The first team in the first team this season to have a playoff clinching scenario. They did it last night, coming through in the big victory against the Philadelphia Flyers. They clinch the playoff spot. They take the number 1 spot in the President's Trophy race overall. So now we're going to be rejoined by the great Daniel Bobo Curlin. But yeah, I mean, when you look at everything this Rangers team has gone through, Dan, are you there? Everything. Hello. I don't know what the hell is going on with his internet right now and everything, but he keeps getting bumped off. Let's see. Attempt number 3 now. Dan, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here. The signal
All right.
somehow. I don't know what happened there with the signal, but yeah.
I don't know. It looks like you're using Wi-Fi from 1997 right now, buddy. It's a little choppy.
Oh, the rain. I don't know what's going on. The Wi-Fi is petering out. Who knows what's going on in there? The
All right.
Wi-Fi is being messed up, right?
We'll do our best and try to keep this thing going on. We appreciate everybody.
Hold
Right
on.
now,
Is it
too,
working
just so
now?
everybody knows, I think so. I think it's working. And right now, we are also live on Patreon. We are live on Kick, and we are live on Twitch. So we appreciate everybody. We figured that we'd give our Patreon subscribers a little sneak peek at the show tonight, as it'll obviously be uploaded by tomorrow, but as regular. But I wanted to give our Patreon members a little sneak peek into how we record our shows every week. So getting off to a little bit of a choppy start, but let's keep it rolling. Dan, I mean, how did you feel last night to see the Rangers clinch that playoff spot? Because obviously we've got bigger things on our mind, but when you clinch a playoff spot like this, at least you know that your first objective is accomplished.
Yeah. Well, I have to say that was a big win, especially the fact with the 2 injuries and Winberg was out for personal reasons. I've correction. You were saying he was out injury. They did say he was out for personal reasons, from what I heard.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And well, no, who Wenberg?
Yeah.
No. Wenberg's wife had a baby, so she was in labor, so he wasn't hurt, but he missed the game because his wife had the baby.
So yeah, that happened. But yeah, we still pulled off one heck of a win. I was. There was a couple of moments of me yelling at the TV, like, "Can this team freaking hold a lead?" Like I was. There've been a lot of cursing and stuff, but I went nuts that whole game. My voice was shot. I think Mr. Malunigan was barking the whole game. So, but still, it was a great win.
Yeah, it was definitely a great win. It just goes to show what a good team this Rangers team is and how deep they are. Because one thing I really took from it, Dan, I don't know if you noticed this, but it seemed to me like, I mean, and not only like we just pointed out, the Rangers were down 3 defensemen, they were down Alex Wenberg, so they're down 4 regulars in the lineup. And when you look at what this team had to go through, it you could look at it and you could give them the benefit of the doubt that okay, they just weren't going to play their top game last night. Okay, they lost. Philadelphia is a good team, even if the Rangers are like 10 games better than them in the standings. Philadelphia is still going to be in the playoffs, and they're still a good team. And John Tortorella, his teams are always a pain in the ass to play against. We know that being that he used to be the Rangers head coach. But the thing that I saw is that obviously in the first period, Philadelphia came out flying, took that early lead. In the second period, before you know it, it's 2-0. And then the Rangers end up getting that late goal to cut it in half, the power play goal. And things started to look like they were turning a little bit. Rangers ended up putting in the second goal, and it just seemed like after that, they scored the third goal very quickly to take that 3-2 lead. And then the third period was just insane. The Rangers ended up putting up 4 goals. They took a 3-2 lead. Philadelphia tied at 3-3. Rangers went ahead 4-3. They tied at 4-4. Rangers went ahead 5-4. Philly ties at 5-5. Rangers off the stick of Adam Fox win it in overtime 6-5. Just a fantastic victory, Dan. I mean, but it also, the thing I really took from it too was that it seemed to me like Philadelphia played a full 60-minute hockey game. They were ready to go the whole time. They were hard nosed. They're not as talented as the Rangers, but they took them to the limit. The Rangers, on the other hand, I felt like it wasn't a full 60-minute effort. which, okay, you're not going to get a full 60-minute effort every time, especially when you're as shorthanded as the Rangers are right now. But they elevated their game when they needed to. Every time Philadelphia came back, the Rangers came right back and elevated their game. And that's playoff hockey, man. Every minute out there isn't going to be your best, but it's how you respond and it's how you raise your game. And that's what the Rangers did in a fantastic way.
Yep, exactly. It's just every minute they responded, and that game just got me nervous until the last second. And I says, "Watch." All of a sudden, we win this in overtime, and I was right on the money. And I jumped up. I was afraid I was gonna have a repeat of that moment that happened during football season where I forgot it was a Giants game where I accidentally pushed my glasses off and my glasses went flying. Thank God that didn't happen because the I was watching in a living room with Mr. Malunigan because he likes to sit in that living room chair, and so I would have had a hard time. I would have had to wait till the daytime to find my glasses because the living room fortunately is one of the few rooms in my house without lights. The only room now, I thank God. And I was smart enough not to. My hands were not anywhere near that I could accidentally push off my glasses because you know how it is when you're so know what you're doing.
Oh yeah, especially with a game like that last night where it seemed like every time he turned around there was a big breakaway, there was a big play, and one guy who I see that's really playing with a lot of confidence, and he scored a big power play goal, the one that cracked open the 2-0 game, made it cut that lead in half, made it 2-1. He scored the power play goal from his office, if you will, right there on the left point, putting it in. Awesome shot by Mike Zibanejad. This guy looks like he's getting ready for the playoffs. He has not had the most amazing season compared to what he's been in years past. We saw him last year with a 90-point season, the year before with an 80-point season. He scored 39 goals. He scored 41 goals in a season for us. But this year, it hasn't been like that, as he only has 24 goals right now. But, and I feel like at times, it seemed like his confidence has gone up and gone down and waned. But I will say this: it looks like Mika's confidence is doing great right now, and if the Rangers have him playing at a high level going into the playoffs, they're going to be a dangerous team.
Yep, exactly. I expect to hear a lot of noise coming from me from that living room during wherever I'm watching the game during the playoffs because it just looks like that. And I can tell you, I gotta hope I don't celebrate too hard that I accidentally break the TV because these TVs are a little bit expensive to replace, and if we can break so easily. So like
Yep.
so like those older TVs that they could take a beating.
Yeah, those TVs could take a beating. These ones definitely a little bit more soft, if you will. But one guy that's going to make you do a lot of celebrating, we were just talking about Mika. This guy has been the man to celebrate all year long. And his name is Artemi Panarin, Dan. What a season this guy has had. 3 assists last night, put him at 102 points, 43 goals, 59 assists, 102 points for the season. First Ranger to eclipse 100 points in a season since Jaromir Jagr, 123 in the year, coming back from the strike 05-06. I'm sorry, it was actually owner's lockout. If you want to get specific about it, but Jagr set the all-time mark that year. He broke Jean Rattel's record of 109 points in a season. He put up 123, and I don't know if Panarin is going to break the record. He'd have to have a really crazy last 10 games to even have a shot at it. But just the season this guy has had has been incredible, Dan. I mean, where would the Rangers be without Artemi Panarin?
I can tell you, Panarin is probably one of the greatest things that's happened to this team, and I can tell you, I just hope for big things because this guy has the potential to live on in infamy in New York. Never have to pay for a beer in New York, depending how this season ends.
Yeah, well, I mean, hey, we saw him have a pretty damn good playoff run 2 years ago. Last year was not the case, but now he's got to have to come out and this type of season he's had in the regular season, he's got to at least look like this a little bit in the playoffs. Be a point per game guy, put up goals, and hey, if he can translate this at all, the Rangers are going to be in real good shape because Igor, Igor got hung out to dry a lot last night. People might knock him for the 5 goals allowed, and there were one or two soft ones in there, but you can't knock Igor when you've got three uh, three defensemen out of the lineup. So half of your defensive lineup is just guys filling in. And not to mention, the Rangers were outshot 41-26 going into overtime last night. So, it really, you know, Philadelphia was all over the place. And Philadelphia might not be the best offensive team, but they put a lot of pressure on Igor. And if you put a lot of pressure on your NHL team, eventually you're going to cash in. So, it was the Rangers' own fault for giving up that many chances, right?
Yeah, exactly. And hopefully they kind of shore this up down to playoff time, and hopefully we don't have to see too many times during a playoff series have to freaking get to the brink before we win it. Be nice to have a couple, maybe an easy win in the playoff series or two, because I just feel
Yeah.
playoff run we've had. I feel like it's just worn out this team. Every big playoff run we've had. I just feel like.
Yeah, they got to learn how to finish off a playoff series in less than 7 games. So we'll see how they do that this year. There's still a couple of interesting ways that this playoff scenario could break down. I mean, assuming right now the Rangers hold on to the division lead, which they currently have a 3-point lead in the division, and they've played one less games than the Hurricane, which bodes pretty well for the Rangers. They could balloon that to 5 if they win the game in between, and they also maintain a 1-point lead over both Boston and I think the other team is Vancouver in the wild card race right now. So the Rangers have a 1-point lead over them, a 3-point lead in division. So if they maintain that top spot, not counting the President's Trophy, we're talking about just the East now. If they maintain that top spot, they could be facing the Detroit Red Wings in the first round of the playoffs or the Washington Capitals. And, whoever gets that last one, technically, if they get hot, which it looks like the Islanders kind of let their chance slip through the fingers, but it could be the Islanders too in that spot if they get hot over these last 10 games. It doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. But right now, hey, Dan, if we're looking at Detroit or Washington and maybe the Islanders in that first round spot, that's a lot better than if you finish second and you're going to have to be playing the Tampa Bay Lightning, who have been a thorn in the Rangers' side for some time now.
Yeah, I just feel like that series would be a tough. I mean, that series would be a winnable one too, but I just feel like that one would really wear out the team if we had to play the if we had to deal with a long first round. I just
Yeah,
feel that's a key thing for the Rangers is to get the first round, a quick first round.
yeah, man, it goes to exactly what you just said before when you're saying, hey, we got to get at least one of these early rounds done quickly and preserve these guys so they don't get beat up. The later we go on into the playoffs. So I think you're 100% right because if you lock down this top spot, and I'm not saying playing Detroit or Washington is going to be easy. They're both good teams. There's a reason why they're in the playoffs. But they would definitely be a much more preferable opponent than the recently two-time champion, Tampa Bay Lightning, who have a probably future Hall of Fame coach and a future Hall of Fame goaltender there still, and not to mention Kucherov and Stamkos. So that goes a long way.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And hopefully they keep that up, and it's going to be an interesting playoffs. And I expect to have a full thick playoff beard. Hopefully going into this, hopefully when it gets the Stanley Cup Finals around, that facial hair is still on my face, and it looks thick. Like it gets it, the last time the Rangers had a deep playoff run, that time 2022 when they unfortunately lost to the Tampa Bay in the Eastern Conference Finals. My playoff beard got thick enough that I think sometime in the second round it got pretty thick. I noticed a grade up. I had to use just for men. I don't know if you noticed it with my facial hair. I used just for men on a beard
Yeah, yeah. Hey, I'm with you on that.
because if every time I grow facial hair, it gray it's like grayish. It's like very grayish with the thicker it grows. So I had to I had to tie it, even though I feel it's more move dyeing facial hair is more of a move if you use facial hair year round. But I was gonna go into if I was gonna have to be not shaving the entire playoff run. I needed to make sure that I didn't deal with I don't want to deal with the gray beard.
It's true. That's true, Dan. As they say, no play for Mr. Gray. Thank you very much, Walt Clyde Frazier and Keith Hernandez. So that's definitely something we've seen.
that exactly a commercial got stuck, but I have to admit it was always funny seeing the comments of what I looked like with that. I think one person said, "Daniel, when did you move to Williamsburg?"
Oh man, very funny. And one last thing on the Rangers before we move on here, because we do have a bunch to get to, and we don't want to go for too long. But the one last thing, Rangers now after the big game yesterday, they're flying out to Denver to play the Colorado Avalanche. Big game out there tomorrow night, Thursday, 9 p.m. This will be tonight if you're watching on our debut day on YouTube. So yeah, Rangers had Avalanche, big game. Avalanche still a very good team. Obviously, they got Georgiev there. Nathan McKinnon's having a big season. So, you know, really couple of big players out there. The Avalanche are still a hell of a team, even though they've got a guy like Landeskog out for the full season. So him not being there is a detriment to them. But still, solid team. Record-wise, right up there with the Rangers, only a few points behind in the President's Trophy race. So just another big test before they play Phoenix on Saturday, and then Arizona, whatever they want to call themselves now, the Coyotes on Saturday, and then they come back for the rest of the season to the East after that, following Easter Sunday. So one last trip out west, and then it's all East Coast hockey for the rest of the until maybe a potential trip to the Stanley Cup final.
Yep, exactly. This is gonna be the last game on that's starting a Western Standard. That's a not really East Coast friendly. The as we know, the game on Saturday it starts, even though it's a away game out west. It starts at 6 p.m. our time. But I have to say this game I feel like is gonna go.
No, it's 9 p.m. our time.
I said the game on Saturday.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, the game on Saturday, 6 p.m. Even though it's a road game at the West Coast, it's still
Mm-hmm.
still East Coast friendly. But either way, that's a weekend, so it's going to be up. But yeah, this game I think is going to go down to the probably going to go down to the last minute of the game. I feel like it just smells close game when you have two elite goaltenders in the potentially insured Igor and Georgi. It could come down to one goal. I feel like. Also,
Yeah. Well, Dan, too. I want to ask you this question because I was thinking of this the other day, and you know, the Rangers have let a couple of good goalies leave over the last decade or so. Really, if you really think about it, there have been a few of them. I want to ask you because the Rangers have let two goalies leave in the last 10 years who both went on to have a 40-win season. Do you know who they are?
yeah, I believe one of them is Georgi and Cam Talbot.
Cam Talbot's the other one. You're right. And the only other good one, too, that I could think of would be Antti Ranta. He didn't have any big 40-win seasons or anything, but he's still a very good goalies. So when you think about it, isn't that crazy that we've had two over the last, I guess if you go back 12 years, the Rangers have had two, you know, great goaltenders in Lundqvist and Shesterkin, who both won Vezina trophies, and then in addition to that, let two 40-win goaltenders leave and Antti Ranta. That's a lot of goaltending wealth right there.
Yeah, and I have to give a lot of credit to the Rangers, their development team, because they seem to be. I feel like the Rangers have had. I feel like they have a legacy of churning out goaltenders, and I mean, look at the last three people that have really had legacies of being a primary goaltender. First we go with the great Mike Richter, the key player in the '94 championship team. Went on to have such a big legacy that he had his number retired in the Garden. Then we
One of
go,
the best American goaltenders of all time.
yeah, exactly, and I agree with Howie Rose's Twitter when he said it's an injustice he should be in the Hall of Fame. He that he's not in the Hall of Fame. I feel like this is hockey's equivalent of of the injustice of Keith Hernandez not being in the Hall of Fame. I feel like this is the
Yeah.
hot, and he right there. And then we go to then after, unfortunately, I think Richter's career got cut short maybe a year or two because of the concussion issues. We go to the next in line, a young goaltender by the name of Henrik Lundqvist. Turned out to be one of the greatest goalies of all time. He had so many big moments in so many big spots, so many big moments in the playoffs. His number is forever immortalized up there in the rafters. And now
Mm-hmm.
to this current generation of Rangers goaltender, Igor Shesterkin, who's adding on to that legacy of great Ranger goaltenders. And
Yeah.
I expect the same standard down the line. I expect to see that number 31 up there in the rafters.
Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves, but he's on track right now. And shout out, as you said, the Rangers development team, the great Benoit Allaire, the Rangers goaltending coach, who just seems to figure these guys out. Even Jonathan Quick, as great as Jonathan Quick has been in his career, after last season, everybody thought he was washed up. Now he's coming here and he's playing at an all-star level again. So shout out to Benoit Allaire, the Rangers coaching staff, and that whole Rangers team. And as a matter of fact, we spent way too much time talking about the Rangers, almost a half hour. But hey, it was a fun win yesterday. So what are you gonna do? We're gonna be getting into our 2024 Major League Baseball picks, our predictions for the season. So I do want to speed through a couple of little things before we get there. Um, Real
Well,
quick, yeah, what are you gonna say, Dan?
one thing, tomorrow should have been a nice little baseball and hockey doubleheader. I would have been attending the Met game at home opener at the opening day at in the daytime, in the afternoon, and then at night would have closed the evening by watching the Rangers play against the Colorado Avalanche at night. Fortunately, we got deprived of that because we got, for the second year in a row, opening the Mets home opener has been rained out, and it was announced the day before. Like, I all of a sudden noticed an alert popped up on my phone, and I kind of knew this was going to happen because I was constantly checking the weather reports. I always when I attend the Mets opening day, I pretty much do a similar thing when I attend NASCAR. I plan it around the possibility that there could be a rainout and it'll be pushed to the next day. Kind of have to do the same thing with opening day, and I had a feeling it was going to be on Friday. It was going to be pushed back to Friday, and I was right. And that's what happened. And
Yeah,
maybe better that happened than having to go there in the rain, and then only to find out it was a rain out, or the worst case scenario, and which usually sometimes happens with games that are rained out. You don't know the game got rained out until you're at the stadium. Until the
yeah,
actually time I had tickets to a game, I didn't get word of the rain out until I got to the ballpark. So I gotta
yep.
give props to the fact that we have this social media technology that it can get the word out. Point that, like what happened last year, I got on a day of the game, I got right as I'm about to leave the house. There was, I forgot what game it was, but I got an alert that the game was going to be moved to the next day as part of a doubleheader. So um I'm glad we're able to get that information quick enough. But fortunately, it's kind of another strange history of the Mets starts of the season getting delayed because not counting the 2020 no fans. Remember 2021, almost the entire
Well,
Nationals had.
yeah, yeah. Well, the other thing too is that what the Mets really have to hope too is that, and I know not the only one, but it better rain tomorrow, because if it doesn't rain tomorrow, they're going to look really stupid. Because Friday is not supposed to be a walk in the park either. Friday is supposed to be pretty ugly weather. They're saying there's going to be a lot of wind, there's going to be a lot of rain, so Friday is not going to be a picnic. So they better hope if it's like a light rain tomorrow and it's not really that bad, even that I think is going to make them look bad, because Friday's supposed to be pretty ugly, and I just hope that's not right. I hope that Friday's a beautiful day, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case right now. And if what Friday looks like is gonna happen, then I think they might have made a mistake backing it up a day.
Yeah, I think so. I don't want to be in a situation where the Mets have to go into the bullpen early because of on and off the game going, having to start and stop. I don't want to be in a situation with that. It's the thing that hurt this team so many times, having to go to the bullpen early, especially on day one.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. Well, one team that won't have to worry about that happening is the Yankees, as the Yankees are opening up tomorrow at 4 p.m. in Houston under the roof, so they don't got to worry about any weather conditions. The Yankees opening at 4 p.m. Nestor Cortez against lefty Framber Valdez, battle of the Southpaws. Uh, obviously, Yankees Astros get together. It's always going to be big news, especially the Yankees added a couple of big key additions in the offseason, most notably Juan Soto. But they also made another appearance. Oh, I'm sorry, not appearance. They made another acquisition today, as after it was revealed a week or two ago that infielder Oswald Peraza went down, and he's going to be down for at least 6 to 8 weeks with this injury, and it's going to take time to ramp him back up after that. They go out and acquire utility man John Birdie from the Miami Marlins for a couple of prospects. I had to say, good job by the Yankees on two fronts, because one, John Birdie is someone that the Yankees do need. He's a good utility guy with speed. He could steal bases and come off the bench and play a key critical role for them. But the other thing it does is help the Mets, because John Birdie was a pain in the ass for the Mets for years. This guy would always get on base. He'd just be a pain in the neck, and as soon as he'd get on, he'd be stealing bases and just causing havoc out there. So you know what? American League East, have fun with John Birdie, because at least we don't got to see him anymore.
Yep, exactly. And I expect that game to be probably going to be a close game because you've got, I feel, going to be two of the top teams in the American League once again.
Yeah, I mean, the Yankees are going to have to prove that. They're going to have to probably make an acquisition or two before the trade deadline, and add another pitcher, especially if they're not getting Garrett Cole back, which right now all signs point to him being back in May or June or somewhere in that area. But I don't know, man. We've heard those stories before. And when you put your hope on a guy returning in May or June and your whole season rides on it, more times than not, that guy doesn't come back in May or June. We were told that with DeGrom for how many years in a row. And then that 1 year we got lucky and he came back in August. And, the rest is history. But so just keeping it moving along here. I want to get to the Knicks and the Jets before we get into our podcast predictions for Major League Baseball for this season. So real quick, the Jets swung and missed in free agency on free agent defensive end Jadeveon Clowney, the former number 1 overall pick, signed a 2-year deal, $24 million with the Carolina Panthers. That makes sense. This is a guy who went to school at South Carolina. He's from that area. So he's going back home. Apparently, the Panthers blew the Jets' offer out of the water by a couple of million. The Jets only wanted him for 1 year. Panthers were willing to give him 2. Jets wanted it more in the 8 to 9 million range. Panthers ended up giving him about 12 with incentives. So it stings a little bit to swing and miss on this guy, but you know, good for Clowney to get the deal that he wanted, and now the Jets are going to have to pivot to the next guy, right?
Yep, exactly. It's going to be on to the next guy.
Yeah, yeah. There we go. Love that chemistry right there. As let's keep it going with the Knicks right now. As the Knicks came back from the West Coast trip that they went 3-1 on, they smacked the Nets 105-93 on Saturday night, and then they pounded the Pistons on Monday 124-99. Big 25-point effort. You know, this Knicks defense leads the league in holding teams under 100 this year. I forget exactly how many times they've done it, but they've done it the most in the NBA. And their defense is only going to be getting better, Dan, because after these 2 nice wins, the Knicks now will be adding to their team. And, you know, we've seen a lot of borderline NBA players on the Knicks team this year. Some of them have blossomed, like Miles McBride, into roster players. He's definitely a guy that can go out there and be on your roster, 12, 13-man roster, whatever it is. But this guy is a guy they drafted, a guy that most Knicks fans are a big fan of, Mitchell Robinson, who had supposedly season-ending surgery on December 8th. Everybody thought he was done for the year. Well, Mitchell Robinson rehabbed the hell out of himself, got himself back in playing shape, and he is back tonight against the Toronto Raptors. The New York Knicks playing in Toronto tonight at 7:30. So they've been playing for about an hour now. But Dan, what do you think? Mitchell Robinson coming back, that's a big boost to the team, the morale, and the defense, right?
I just have a feeling the Knicks are going to have maybe the toughest defense in going into the playoffs, and it's gonna be the big X factor. The the whole
Yeah, and you know, right now at halftime, the Knicks have a 71-56 lead. They're looking really good. Miles McBride had a great first half, 18 points. Brunson, 17 points, 6 assists. Hartenstein, even 11 points off the bench. And Mitchell Robinson, in his return, 6 minutes, 5 points, 2 rebounds, 2 for 2 from the floor, 2 block shots also. So really, really, Mitchell Robinson looking like himself. The Knicks, I like the fact that they only gave him a couple of minutes just to reintegrate himself to the the feeling of playing a game again. 6 minutes in the first half, maybe he'll do 6 or 7 in the second half. So you figure he'll get somewhere between 13 and 15 minutes tonight. I like that. Slowly ramp him up as they get ready for the playoffs. And hey, if you get a healthy Mitchell Robinson going to the playoffs, that defense and that team goes up a couple of notches, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I just have a feeling it just worked out very perfectly that they're in a situation where they're assured they're in the playoffs. They're able to avoid that play-in tournament situation, and they're able to get him slowly work his way back into the uh, got kind of got to get a little of the rust off, and it's set up
Exactly.
that they're able to afford that.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. That's a big thing for the Knicks right now, getting healthy. I mean, obviously, you're talking about the Rangers getting healthy. Now the Knicks are getting healthy too. You know, Mitchell Robinson coming back. Obviously, OG already came back, but he had that little flare up, which the Knicks supposedly are not that worried about. So that's a good sign. Obviously, Julius Randle still. I mean, I keep hearing he's back for the playoffs, but I'm starting to get a little skeptical because we really haven't seen anything about Julius. But let's keep our fingers crossed. And if all 3 of those guys are back, Dan, the Knicks are going to be real dangerous heading into the NBA postseason.
Yeah, exactly. Is this just gonna be an interesting April to June? Could be.
No
And
doubt about that, especially with the playoff and basketball and playoff hockey at Madison Square Garden, right?
yeah, and it's gonna be a great time to be a great time to be a fan in New York this during this time of year. During this time of year.
Exactly, Dan. I'm with you on that. And with that, everybody, I think we're going to jump right into our Best Seat in the House podcast 2024 Major League Baseball predictions. This is a something that we've been doing on the show for a couple of years now. We started it on my old podcast, the Coffee or Kramer podcast. Me and Dan did our predictions there 1 year, and ever since we started doing the show, we've done our predictions every year since then. So let's start it off, Dan, with the American League East. American League East, obviously. We talk about the Yankees a lot on this show, obviously, and um, we have, different feelings about these teams. So we'll go through it one at a time, starting with the AL East now. Bo, he's got the Baltimore Orioles, and I've also got the Baltimore Orioles. So, Dan, give me your reasoning. What do you like about the Orioles this year so far?
Just feel like they seem to have developed a great team out of their farm system, and I just feel like they have a couple of years in this of this how this kind of running is in a little period. They were recently sold. I feel like they're going to be a very decent team as long as they can find a way to have. If they can find a way to get pitching at the deadline, is going to be an X factor. But they seem to be very good in offense.
Yeah, and let's not forget that they have a lights out bullpen. They also picked up in the offseason Corbin Burns from the Milwaukee Brewers, their ace. So adding him to that rotation takes up that rotation 1,000%. They're gonna have Gunnar Henderson out there, who's awesome. Adley Rutschman, the catcher, is incredible, and Jackson Holiday, their star shortstop prospect, didn't even make the team at a camp. That's going to be a guy who somewhere down the line this year, Jackson Holiday is going to be on that Orioles team. So keep your eye out for that. That's Matt Holiday's son, just in case anybody's wondering, former Major League star Matt Holiday. So that's a guy who's got it in his blood, and he's going to be on the team at some point. And this Orioles team is just going to keep getting better and better and better. So,
Yeah, I just
real
feeling going to be called. They're waiting for him to be called up after that Super 2 deadline, whatever that is, because it feels like they want to try to keep him under. They want another year under team control. It's one of those deals. It's I've seen teams do this many times before. That looks like what the direction they're going with the O's are going with there, and I got to tell you, our own. Well, I've their own, but someone we know personally, of course, from Jim and Sam's show, Travis Teft. I'm sure the Teft dog is very happy about this team going into the year.
No doubt about that. If you're an Orioles fan, you have to be thrilled with what they've turned this team around. You remember Buck Showalter's last season there, they lost over 110 games. They were one of the worst teams in baseball. They were one of the worst teams that we've seen over the last 20 years, really, record-wise. And the way they've turned it around, definitely have to love what you've seen from the Orioles. So let's keep it moving along here right now as we got the Cleveland, what am I talking about? The American League Central right now. The AL Central is up right now. Obviously, big slate of teams there. And Bobo has the Twins coming out. And I have the Cleveland Guardians, the former Cleveland Indians, coming out as the champions there. Dan, what do you like about the Twins?
I just feel like the Twins they seem to have a decent, they have a decent offense. Maybe their pitching might be better. Bullpen they got figured out, but they just seem to be a good, solid team, and they got to learn how to win. They got to get past the divisional round. I feel like history with the Twins, and especially it seems that they've gone through. They they got to be able to win during the playoffs. Is what they got to do. But
Yeah,
they
the Twins have not been to the American League Championship Series since 2002. So it's been 22 years. It's been a long time. Yeah, definitely would expect the Twins to be up on that. You're right.
Yeah, but of course, unfortunately, of course, they have been overmatched by the Yankees many times. I mean, it's
Many
got.
times.
I think I know us Met fans, and I'm sure a lot of Red Sox fans hate the Yankees. I feel the third biggest Yankee haters. I feel the Mets are the biggest Yankee haters because we're in the same backyard as the Yankees, and we got to deal with it even more than the Red Sox fans. I feel like the third biggest Yankee haters have to be the Twins, just because of all the years of them losing to the Yankees in the playoffs. So, but I
Yeah.
feel that they're in a situation where they're going to at least win one playoff series. I feel like, and they're gonna win the division. I feel like with this team.
Well, it could be, but the only thing is, for me, I don't trust the Twins rotation. The Twins had Sonny Gray the last couple of years. He's gone. He's moved on. The Twins had, they do have a couple other guys. They have Kenta Maeda, but I don't know. I don't trust the Twins. That's why I went with the Guardians. And I know a lot of people aren't picking the Guardians this year. They're not a well liked team, but I just feel like they have a lot of young talent on there. I think Shane Bieber's finally healthy. I like what I saw out of him in spring training. I think if they get a full year at a Bieber, they're going to be difficult. Obviously, another guy in that rotation that I like is Tristan McKenzie, who is a very nice, well thought of young pitcher they have in their rotation. Um, you know, outside of Edwin Diaz, they might have one of the best closers in baseball in Emmanuel Clace. And obviously, Jose Ramirez is a big bat. There's just a lot of things about that Guardians team that I think can come together if everything works out perfectly. So, yeah, I have big hopes in the Guardians this year. But just a guess. Let's see. Uh, but keep it moving along here right now. We'll go over to the American League West right now. We all know that the Houston Astros have dominated that. The Astros won the World Series in 2022. The American League West is now captured back to back because the Rangers followed that up with a victory in 2023. So definitely a lot of precedent coming out of that division right now. A lot of championships to be had, but right now, for Bobo, you've got the Astros coming back up with the division winner, and I have the Rangers coming up and snatching the division title away. Why do you think the Astros are going to hold on?
I just feel like the Astros have the edge, might on a little bit of a championship hangover. I feel like also a combination. They have some pitching. Aging looks like looks like Max Scherzer is going to be questionable if he'll be ready for the season. Also, they've lost Jordan Montgomery, one of their big players in a in last season's championship. So they might be a little might not by taking a step backwards pitching wise. And I just feel like the Astros just have a way of constantly turning out great pitching.
They do. They do. Christian Javier and Framber Valdez are definitely big signs of that. But let's be honest though, Dan. What what won the championship last year for the Texas Rangers was not their pitching. Even though they did get big outings from Dane Dunning and Nate Evaldi and all those guys down the stretch, even Andrew Heaney. It seemed like every time Scherzer took the ball, he was getting lit up. So I don't even think most Ranger fans even really consider him a part of this thing yet. But it will be a boon to their rotation when a healthy Max Scherzer does join them at some point this year. But the other thing is that the Texas Rangers just hit the crap out of the ball, man. I mean, you could make the case they have the best second baseman and best shortstop in baseball right now with the combination of Seager and Simeon. Then you add Adolis Garcia, who is tearing it up in the World Series, and all those big bats they have. I just think that, once again, I never thought we'd really see a team hit their way to a championship like we did with the Rangers last year. But if they did it one year, who am I to say they can't do it again? So I got the Texas Rangers on that one. Bo gets the Astros. So going to be real interesting seeing how that one plays out. All right, to keep it rolling along now, let's take a look at our American League wild cards, everybody. Now let's not forget The American League and the National League both get 3 wild card teams this year now, and as they did last year. So we all know the format. So Bobo has his 3 wild card teams. And I have my 3 wild card teams. Let's take a look, starting with Bobo. Bobo has as his top wildcard team AL Wildcard 1, the Yankees, AL Wildcard 2, Toronto, and AL Wildcard 3, Tampa Bay Rays. A clean AL East sweep. You gotta like that if you're an American League East fan. But what do you think about that, Dan? How do you like the why did you pick these 3 teams?
Oh, I just feel like this division is stacked. I mean, you got three teams that just look like they're going to be. I feel like they're going to be neck and neck for the division all the down to the potentially the last week of the season. I feel like, and I just feel like they're just going to be winning at a high pace. And when that happens, you got a situation like this where, with this format, you're going to have three teams in the same, three maybe four teams in the same division in the playoffs, and that's what it's going to look like. I feel like the reason why probably be maybe a wild card is probably because they're going to go depending if Garrett Cole return how soon he returns, because I know they're probably gonna have a bit of season on a handicap. I feel like so it's gonna be a bit of catching up. Might be enough to just get in as a wild card. Toronto,
Yeah,
Toronto, I just feel like has been finally churning out a lot of great prospects, and they seem to be spending just a little bit to try to maybe add to this team. I feel like also probably in part also because of all the renovations they're doing to and I still refer to this stadium by its old name, Skydome. I don't call it Rogers. I call it Skydome. They seem to wanna put fannies in the seats there in Toronto. So I feel like they're going to be a formidable opponent. And Tampa Bay, they just have a great the development department, whatever the people in charge of their farm system seem to be churning out decent players in their farm system for a team that pretty much no one in Tampa shows up for, and they're they look like they're going to be at least make the playoffs. Who knows what's happened from there? Because I just feel like this is going to be. I feel like this is going to be a not easy to predict playoffs. That I feel like a team that just sneaks in as a wild card, it could potentially win the whole thing again.
yeah. I mean, look at last year. The Rangers and the Diamondbacks were 2 teams that not many people picked heading in. So you're probably right about that. For me on this side, I have Houston taking the top wild card spot, because as much as I do think we're going to get a good season out of the defending world champion Texas Rangers, the Houston Astros aren't going anywhere. Just like Dan said, they're still a damn good team. They still are a deep team. They have great pitching. So I do think they're going to make noise and be in the playoffs. And yeah, I'm with you on Toronto. I love Toronto. I think they have a great team. I really love, obviously, Guerrero and George Springer and Bichette. And then you look at their rotation where they have, Kevin Gausman out there anchoring their rotation now. I've always been a big fan of Jose Berrios. So this is a very deep team. And then obviously the Yankees too. The Yankees, who I'm not that impressed with their rotation right now with Garrett Cole down, but I think the Yankees will hit enough this year with Soto, Judge, and if he's healthy, Giancarlo Stanton, and they'll find a way. Whether that's Garrett Cole coming back in June or around there, or going out and acquiring a big name ace type starting pitcher, because I think Brian Cashman knows that the pressure is on this year. So yeah, definitely with you on that, Dan. And yeah, so let's turn the page now to the American League, to the National League, as we'll start in our team's division, the National League East. Obviously, we've known that the big dog over in the National League East for the last few years has been the Atlanta Braves. The Mets made good runs in 21 and 22, came up short both years. Braves won the World Series in 21. So, and obviously we've had champions come out of there. The Braves won in 21, the Nationals won in 19, the Phillies were in the World Series. So, 2 years ago. So, a lot of playoff experience coming out of the National League East. And right now, me and you are in unison, Dan. We're in agreement that I don't think the things are changing this year. The Atlanta Braves, we both have taking the National League East. And what do you think about that, Dan?
Yeah, I think so. They probably take the East, though. I have a feeling it's not going to be as much of a blowout as we expect because I just feel like there's going to be some couple of teams I said hanging in there. Like I just feel like I meant going into the season I felt like like maybe a little bit on the Mets, but I feel like the Mets maybe stepped up their game a little bit, and there's going to be some pitching that's going to be. I feel like that's just taking advantage of flying under the radar. I feel like Severino looks like he's got somehow Mets to find a way to improve from last year. From what I've been hearing, so I feel like he's going to have a nice bounce back year. And
But what about the Braves, though?
it, the Braves, I just feel like their pitching's like is they always seem to have the pitch they always seem to have the pitching to go there. They this team looks stacked on offense. I just I just feel like at the same time there's gonna be it's gonna be the tough like the only thing that gets I mean they're gonna be facing some tough opponent that's gonna step it's not it's not a walk in the park as it used to be with multiple teams in the playoffs these days.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. But the Braves is such a deep team that they still scare the heck out of you, no doubt about that. And let's keep it rolling along to the National League Central now. Obviously, I think, and it's funny too. In your pick, I noticed a trend. One of the trendy picks this year for the National League Central is the Chicago Cubs. I've seen most people pick the Cubs. I'm kind of surprised by that because I'm not really blown away by their pitching or anything. Although I do love the Dansby Swanson signing that they had. But what do you think, Dan? You picked the Cubs. I picked the Cardinals. Why'd you pick the Cubs?
I just feel like this team is a. I feel like they're about to emerge because they seem to have a deep farm system. I mean we saw that deep farm system manage to get really blown. I mean be a blowaway in 2016, and I just feel like they were built when they blew up the team they were probably building toward this, and I feel like this is going to be the year that they're kind of gonna. I feel like the beginnings of that they're gonna that they're going to be finally showing this is going to be the first year that they're showing what they're going to be showing what they're made of. So they
Mm.
look like they're going to be for more of a formidable opponent than they were the last couple of years.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I definitely hear what you're saying. The Cubs, I do agree with you, are going to be a little bit of a better team. But to me, I'm a big fan of the Cardinals. Not literally, but this season, I think the Cardinals just all something about them just come together. I like Wilson Contreras behind the plate for them. Obviously, you got to love at the corners. They have Goldschmidt and Arenado. And if Arenado can come anything close to the season he had last year, that's a big help too. Then you look, they had this the other kid, Jordan Walker, 22-year-old, who's just getting his first taste of the game. I'm a big fan of Dylan Carson, their center fielder too. And let's not forget, not only have they do have a couple of pitchers, obviously Steven Matz, who really hasn't done much with since he left the Mets. But I did like they added Sonny Gray in a very underrated move coming into this season. He's starting off the season a little bit banged up, so he might not. He's not going to be the opening day starter, and he might not join them for a week or two. But I do think that Sonny Gray being in that rotation, and he's not in a Yankee uniform, so you know he's going to be pitching pretty good. Sonny Gray being for the Cardinals, it reminds me a lot of Darryl Kyle. If you remember Darryl Kyle, where he was great pitcher with the Houston Astros, then he went to the Colorado Rockies and kind of got bombed for a couple of years, And then before he unfortunately passed away, he ended up joining the Cardinals and completely turning his career around. And I feel like Sonny Gray, he started doing that obviously in Cincinnati and Minnesota, but those teams fly under the radar. When you go to the St. Louis Cardinals and you have a really good season for them, people take notice of that. And I expect Sonny Gray to have a really good year and anchor that Cardinals rotation. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out in the NL Central. And with that, we'll keep it rolling along, Dan, now to the National League West. Obviously, we all know the National League West has been dominated by the Dodgers. The East from the Braves, the Beast from the East, and we got the Beast from the West. The LA Dodgers keeping it over there, and it looks like me and you don't expect things to really change too much. Obviously, with the ridiculous additions of Yamamoto and Ohtani, and who knows how this whole Ohtani thing is going to play out over the next months and weeks, however they want to go about doing it with this investigation. But we both expect the Dodgers to still have a great year. Yamamoto rebound from that first bad start he had, where he allowed 5 runs in 1 inning pitched. He's going to get better. The Dodgers are going to get better. And me and you, looks like we both expect them to put in another division championship, right?
Yeah, I just feel like this team's gonna make the playoffs, and what happens there, that's gonna be a question mark. But I feel like that first hurdle, they've got that hurdle in the bag.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously, there's not even too much to break it down. The Dodgers are the Dodgers, and they're going to, they're always going to be in it. No doubt about it. As for the National League wild card now, we got 3 spots each, just like we did with the American League. And Dan, let's kick it off with you. Who are your 3 National League wild cards?
I got of course I got the Mets. I just feel like they're gonna find a way to the moment that I feel like kind of woke up maybe the general manager or something. I just feel like they're gonna sneak in there, and I just feel like whenever teams sneak in there, sometimes we kind of overlooked, and I've seen it with other sports. So you just sneak in, you get in it, and you could pull off some unexpected heights, the highs are highs, and not
Mm-hmm.
and fly to the radar. And I feel like that's going to be it. And I feel like what they do in the playoffs is going to be dictated by what they do at the deadline. Because I feel like this team could sneak at the playoffs, but that deadline is going to be the be all end all, and that's going to be depending on how where it plays out with other teams and the availability. What other teams will make, if any other teams will make availability, any pitchers that have an extra year of team control. I feel like it's going to be the thing, as we've heard. They don't want to go in on a team that on a pitcher that's a rental. But if there's a pitcher that maybe has one more year under the contract, they'll probably pounce on that. They have a lot of they have surpluses of shortstops and catchers in their farm system. So I feel like that could be literally utilized to our advantage. I feel like.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, but I don't see the Mets really trading too much. I think they're going to hold on to it. They kind of remind me of what the Philadelphia Flyers are doing this year, where they are going to do everything they can to contend, but they're not going to do everything they can to add to the team because they don't want to detract from their minor leagues. But who knows? Let's see. We'll give them a chance because I didn't think, even though I've been yelling for it and wanting it all off season, I didn't think they were going to sign JD Martinez either. So I guess we'll see what they do there. So we got Dan picking the Mets, Phillies, and Brewers. On my side, I picked the Phillies because the Phillies are just a dangerous team. Obviously, Zach Wheeler and Nola anchoring that rotation is always going to be tough to go against, and the obviously Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber and Trey Turner. They just have a really tough core, and a core that has done a lot of winning in their careers. So I expect the Phillies to be right there again. And Cincinnati, I know a lot of people aren't talking about Cincinnati, but let's not forget They were one of the hotter teams in the second half of the season last year. I like how they added Yarmir Candelario. He's a good third baseman that they added. They also added Frankie Montas, the former Yankee, another former Yankee coming over to Cincinnati to try to rehabilitate his career. Also another guy that started with the A's and then got sent to the Yankees and then ended up on Cincinnati. So interesting how Montas and Sonny Gray have had a similar past. But then let's also not forget, I'm a big fan of Nick Lodolo. He's a good lefty in their rotation. And Hunter Green, the hard-throwing righty, is tough to forget about. And let's not forget, they have a slew of good young position players headlined by shortstop Ellie De La Cruz, who is another big guy that that I'm a big fan of. And also, if you remember, shortstop Matt McClain, who came up and made a big impact in the second half of this season last year too. So they have a lot of good young players. They also have a first baseman, Encarnacion Strand. That's another good guy. So don't sleep on the Cincinnati Reds. And also the San Francisco Giants. The San Francisco Giants, I forget the Japanese guy's name they signed this offseason, but they had one of the bigger Japanese signings right underneath Yamamoto. So he's going to end up coming in there. I believe he's an outfielder. So he's going to be playing for the Giants this year. Don't forget the Giants also went out and signed third baseman Matt Chapman, who's really going to improve their defense, and he still has some pop left in that bat too. So don't sleep on the Giants either, because I think if the Giants get good pitching, which they can always in that ballpark, they'll always be competitive. So don't sleep on the Reds or the Giants, because I think both those teams are going to be in the mix till the end. And yeah, Dan, with that, that is our 2022, what am I talking about? Our 2024 Major League Baseball predictions. And one more thing before we get out of here, Dan, let's give our World Series prediction. Dan, who do you got in the 2024 Fall Classic?
Oh, I feel like the last couple of years of me predicting the Mets win this, and I feel like thank God I didn't try to place any bets, because I feel like I definitely would have not won if I placed any bets. But I feel like maybe I kind of did this hoping this is reverse psychology that I, because I have the look of Sports Illustrated or something. But and watch, this is probably not even going to turn out this matchup. I would be shocked if this one right. I just have a feeling it's going to turn out to be Baltimore against San Francisco, I feel like.
Baltimore, San Francisco. Okay, that's an interesting series right there. I definitely wait, but you didn't pick the Giants.
Probably my mistake. I meant Baltimore, the Dodgers. I meant. So
Baltimore Dodgers. Okay, no problem. Yeah, so that's a rematch of the 1966 World Series. So that's pretty interesting right there. And Dodgers and the Orioles you've got there. And for me, I've actually also got the Dodgers in there, and I've got the Dodgers and the Toronto Blue Jays. So another interesting little run there if the Blue Jays did make it all the way. So I do like that. I just feel like the Dodgers are going to pull it together. Obviously, you do too. So yeah, so there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Take it from the horse's mouth, if you will. We got the 2024 predictions right here, and we appreciate everybody tuning in and checking them out. I think that's just about going to do it for us this week, buddy. But do you have anything you'd like to plug before we get out of here?
Sure. I got to plug my Twitter account, Bobo103NYC, Instagram, Bobo718DK, same thing as my handle on Threads, and it's for Daniel Curlin on YouTube for all your Bobo content on YouTube. I might be filming some stuff in the coming weeks. There'll be plenty of playoff videos, and all you guys who subscribe to the Patreon, you guys get early access to it. So whenever I upload to my YouTube, so definitely be on the lookout for there. You guys get early access to it. So that's all my plugs there.
Make sure, absolutely, make sure to check Dan out there, and don't forget to check out our Patreon account, patreon.com/Best Seat in the House podcast. We appreciate all the support. It's only $5 to sign up, and you get your first week for free. And it's a week trial too. So if you don't like it, cancel at any time, and you don't get paid, and you get to check out our content, right, Dan?
Exactly, $5, almost the equivalent of the cost of a Metro card. So you have no excuse not to.
Exactly. Well said, everybody. Well said, Dan. So, everybody, once again, thank you so much for tuning in, checking out Best Seat in the House podcast. We really appreciate the support, as always. So for Daniel Bobo Curlin, I'm Rob Kramer. This is the Best Seat in the House podcast. And the next time we'll be on is on Sunday for our Patreon show, everybody. So make sure to sign up, and we'll catch you there. We'll catch you next week, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, how